A very good morning to you. Welcome to Hockenheim and race 2 in the Porsche Carrera Cup Germany. What a race we're expecting. Race duration 16 laps this track, 4.574 kilometers, featuring 16 turns, 6 of them left-handers and 10 of them right-handers. Welcome to the Porsche Carrera Cup. Never fails to entertain with great race action, and we're expecting that very much to be the case today. Very dry out there, unlike yesterday where the weather conditions were really rather less than pleasurable. Certainly not very warm at the moment, as some of our Porsche dignitaries down there on the grid ahead of the start of this race. So the starting order will be Larry ten Voorde, Jackson Evans and Jaap van Lagen going from P1, 2 and 3. More to tell you about Jackson Evans and Jaap van Lagen in but a few moments' time. So Alexander Polish then. Thomas Volkmar then, and Bastian Thram from Porsche Deutschland Marketing there, down there on the grid as well. Ahead of the start of this race. So yesterday then, as the cars were released, Larry ten Voorde doing a great job, but so too Jackson Evans, who managed to put himself ahead of Jaap van Lagen and occupy that P2 place right at the start of the race. But Larry ten Voorde doing a very, very good job indeed in making sure that he owned the start of the race and converted his P1 position into the race lead. Regrettably, Mikael Ammermuller and Igor Valilko had a coming together, and Ammermuller spun and would end up 16th. 30-second penalty was awarded to Valilko for that. And as you can see, the safety car was deployed following the collision there, which Jean-Baptiste Zimmermann, considerable damage to his car. Larry ten Voorde would take the checkered flag. Jaap van Lagen second, Jackson Evans third, but both of those cars, P2 and P3, were disqualified for illegal and unauthorized underbodies. Christoph Huber was very pleased with Larry ten Voorde's performance, and he celebrated atop his car. A great job done by the Netherlands-based racer, Larry ten Voorde. So back down on track then, ahead of the start of this Porsche Carrera Cup Race 2. The cars, you can hear them making their way around the track now, heading towards the grid formation and lining up. Now, Porsche this year with a completely new youth development initiative, which is called the Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland Talent Pool. It was launched last season. Here's Thomas Volkmar once again. So Thomas Volkmar then is discussing the situation yesterday, which saw Jackson Evans disqualified due to a potentially illegal underbody of the car. So talking about the underbody, which caused the disqualification yesterday for Jackson Evans and also for Jaap van Lagen, incidentally. So whatever the issues were, I'm given to understand that the teams have appealed the decision, and we will see what happens. You can see the Larry 10 Vorder car is lined up already. Now, I was mentioning about the new youth initiative, which was launched last season. 16 promising young guns benefited from the extensive support, and for 2019, the concept, which includes comprehensive coaching from the Porsche professional Wolfgang Hensler, and fitness tests and individualized training plans, media and mental training, as well as 3 sets of tires, all going to be developed further. Moreover, the number of participants will be capped, and the quality as well as the support will increase significantly. So we were looking at the Larry 10 Vorder car victorious yesterday. Jackson Evans actually finished the race in a very, very good position indeed, but ended up being disqualified, as indeed did Jaap van Lagen. So the race result was amended accordingly. So Jaap van Lagen and Jackson Evans then, showing the pace that they did yesterday, they were the drivers that potentially could take it to Larry 10 Vorder. So Louis Henkefan then talking about the youth development program that I was discussing just a few moments ago. Alex Hockenheim then. Hockenheim, a name for a long time associated with Porsche Carrera Cup. Well, clearly, the fitness of the drivers is taken very seriously, and so this talent pool then, everything being monitored to ensure that these young guys can be shaped into the racing talent that we know they have the potential to deliver. Janis Fitcher there, who sadly didn't take part in the race yesterday due to a crash in qualifying. Nicolas Scholl there, the youngest driver taking part in the Porsche Carrera Cup this year at just 17 years of age. So there we have it then, the initiative which was started last year. Leon Koffler will be going from P9 on the grid then for MSG HRT Motorsport in the number 77 car. And the number 77 car, a non-classifier yesterday in the race, so we'll be hoping for better things today. So we look at the number 77 car then from the MSG team of Leon Koffler. And Gustav Malja for Forge Racing then, a 155.736 was enough to give him 10th on the grid for Gustav Malja for Forge Racing then. Incidentally, I followed their team in from my hotel this morning. Here is Thomas Volkmar once again. Just a few minutes away then from the warm-up lap. The Porsche Carrera Cup then down there on track, ready for their race 2. Drivers from 11 different nations taking part in the Carrera Cup. Tony Wolff in car number 13, who Car number 14 qualifies in P13, I should say. Finished P8 yesterday, Tony Wolff, who at times looked really, really blisteringly quick. And there is Tim Zimmermann for the Black Falcon team, going from P14 on the grid. Tim Zimmermann yesterday only just off the podium following those 2 disqualifications. So he ended up classifying P4 for Tim Zimmermann. And good to see Tim at the sharp end of the results yesterday, and we'll be hoping for good things today. As we zoom in right at the back of the grid, you can see there the all-pink BWT Lechner car of Jean-Baptiste Simonab, and I think the car just ahead was Janis Fischer. Now, Janis Fischer didn't take part in the race yesterday following the crash in qualifying, so hopefully Janis Fischer's car, they've worked hard to repair that and get Janis Fischer back out on track once again. Thankfully, he sustained no injuries, and Janis Fischer, of course, driving for the Team Project 1 JBR amalgamation for this year. There is Mikael Ammermuller, who's going from P7 on the grid. Again, for the champion, I really feel that he's outplaced in terms of qualifying. Just couldn't get it together in qualifying. And Mikael Ammermuller finishing in P9 yesterday. When you mention the name Ammermuller and P9, the two things just don't weld together. You don't expect Mikael Ammermuller to be so far back in the order. Of course, he got turned around. But even so, his qualifying was not brilliant. So there is Jackson Evans, who really had great pace yesterday. Let's see if he can replicate that in better conditions today. But Larry ten Voorde was so impressive. And you can see just the incredible talent that Larry ten Voorde has. He's moved teams this year, gone from the Project 1 team where he was, and now moves to the Overdrive Racing by Huber team, which of course is run by Christoph Huber. As the cars are released then on their installation lap, this is the Porsche Carrera Cup Germany. And the sound of those cars roaring off the start line here at the 4.574 kilometer Hockenheim circuit is a joy to behold. A very good morning to you. Welcome to a cold Hockenheim, but a dry Hockenheim. Igor Valilko, Leon Koffler, Gustav Malja, Tony Wolff. So the cars, Larry ten Voorde then making his way through turn number 2. Now, our high overhead shot you can see through turn 3. And turn 4, which leads us on to the Parabolica here at Hockenheim, that sweeping left-hander where then all your force has to go through the middle pedal as you try and brake for the hairpin, which is turn number 6. You can see some harmless high cloud above. Some of them are grey, but we're reliably informed by our meteorological friends that we should have dry running all day today. So Larry ten Voorde then weaving from side to side, trying to generate some temperature into those tyres. And here is the grid in full for you. Larry ten Voorde from P1, Jackson Evans P2, then it's Jaap van Lagen, Henrik Skoog, Berke Bessler, what a great job he did yesterday, Luca Rettenbacher, Mikael Ammermuller and Igor Valilko, ahead of Leon Koffler, Gustav Malja, Julian Andlauer, Lucas Oertel, Tony Wolff, Tim Zimmermann, Dylan Pereira, Stefan Raykop, who was the best of the AM drivers, Louis Henkefend, Sandro Kaibach, Richard Wagner, Nicholas Scholl, the youngest driver on the grid, Reese Barr, Matthias Jeserich, Sebastian Dorm, and the rest of the order there, including Carlos Rivas, Alex Arkenaka, Georgi Donkov, and then Soren Spring, Janis Fischer, David Kolkman, and Jean-Baptiste Simonauer. So the cars making their way through the hairpin and heading down towards turn number 7, which is taken absolutely flat in these Carrera Cup cars. Of course, we race the 911 GT3 Cup car, which is the model 991 Generation 2. This, the third year in the Porsche Carrera Cup that we've raced this particular iteration of the car. Air temperature, look, 11 degrees. Sorry, I think it feels colder than that. Track temperature, definitely dry, and 17 degrees. So the leading cars then are already heading towards the final 2 turns, and then the cars will park up on the grid, awaiting the start of the race. Yesterday, Larry ten Voorde did a great job, and he was able to get the start absolutely nailed perfectly. Can he do it again today? He'll be hoping so, that's for sure. Look at him, absolutely throwing the back end of that car to generate the temperature into those rear tyres. Now, of course, if you're on the first few rows of the grid, you try and get as much temperature into the tyres as possible because you have to sit in your grid box the longest, waiting for all the cars to line up So the first 4-5 rows of the grid are parked up, and those are the ones that have to wait for the stragglers, if you like, right at the back of the pack to get themselves millimetrically perfect into their grid boxes. So all the time that the likes of Jackson Evans and Jaap van Lagen and Larry ten Voorde are sitting there, they're losing valuable temperature out of the rubber. And still, the final car, which is Jean-Baptiste Zimmermann, is not into the grid box. So it's an anxious time for the drivers right at the front of the pack to sit there and wait for those cars to line up before we can get the green flag from the marshal at the rear. There is the final car of Jean-Baptiste Zimmermann for BWT Lechner Racing. Into the grid box now. So we should get the green flag from the marshal at the rear, which means that the start sequence can get underway. Indeed, we get that green flag. 5 red lights will light up. When they extinguish, we will be on and racing. Larry ten Voorde gives it an absolute footfall. It's a great start from Jackson Evans as well. So is Jackson going to get to the inside of Larry ten Voorde? No, he doesn't. So ten Voorde stays ahead going into turn number 1. But that really was a great start from Jackson Evans. The rest of the cars seem to get away all okay, but Larry ten Voorde doing as he did yesterday. Once he's got his nose, as one gets turned around from the middle order, that collects another one as well. Everyone else avoids, thankfully. Can they get going once again? I think we had a couple of safety cars as we've got one out onto the grass as well as they head onto the parabolica, but we focus on what's happening at the front here because Jaap van Lagen has got past Jackson Evans to take up P2. So ten Voorde leads from now Jaap van Lagen. So 2 Netherlands racers together now, P1 and P2. Hopefully we'll get a replay of where Jaap van Lagen, it must have been around the parabolica where he got the better of Jackson Evans and went past. But Larry ten Voorde remains in front. Henrik Skoog, who of course benefited from the 2 disqualifications yesterday in terms of his finishing position in race number 1. He's running in P4 and Luca Rettenbacher looking good as well. So the front 4 cars then breaking away from the rest of the pack, as you can see. Mikael Ammermuller is on a bit of a charge as well as he needs to be. So there is the number 2 car of Julian Andlauer. And we have got a safety car already. That will be for one of the stricken cars then. And I'm pretty right in saying that that car is Alex Arkin-Akker's, which is stuck, and therefore the safety car has to come out. And Larry ten Voorde, for all his good work, now sees the margin that he'd built up between P1 and P2 reduced to 0 because the safety car will pick them up. Now, hopefully, the recovery operation will be quite a quick one. Of course, all this eats into the 16 lap and the time duration that is allowed for this race. Actually, it's the number 50 car of Tim Zimmermann that has got to be recovered rather than that of Alex Arkin-Akker. So Alex Arkin-Akker has obviously got going again or has put himself into a position. So in fairness, between turns 1 and 2, that's where Jaap van Lagen got the better of Jackson Evans. There you can see the Akker car, and so even at that point, Jaap van Lagen was ahead. And there we can see the number 77 car of Leon Koffler. It is Leon Koffler and the car of Tim Zimmermann getting together. This was where Alex Arkin-Akker then took to the grass. And doing a good qualcast job there, to be honest with you. Leon Koffler managed to get the car going once again. But there you can see the bodywork rubbing against the rear tyre meant that car was not going to continue very far in the race, sadly. So Leon Koffler's car is in. They will hastily try and move that, although I'm getting the impression from the MSG HRT Motorsport that perhaps that car will not be continuing in the race. That's a great shame. So we await the recovery of the number 50 car of Tim Zimmermann. And once that car is recovered, now where are the cars on the lap? They're heading into turn number 12 now, so I would think even if they get that car recovered, I think it's going to be too late for the safety car lights to be switched off, and I think we'll have to do another lap behind the safety car. Right, replay of the start here. Where did Jackson Evans lose out then? Because as you can see, he got a great start and almost troubled. I reckon he just carried too much speed into turn number 1, and that's when Jaap van Lagen was able to get in the inside of him potentially. But it was a real blistering start from both Jackson Evans and Larry ten Voorde. And here we can see from the back of the grid, every car bar one which was sluggish away. They did all manage to get away. Thankfully, no contact and no problems. So they use all the runoff area, certainly in turn 1, and that is where Jaap van Lagen got past Jackson Evans. So through turn number 1 then, Jackson Evans ran wide. Jaap van Lagen was in the perfect position to say thanks very much, I don't need that invitation twice, and dived up the inside. That was the contact between Tim Zimmermann and Leon Koffler, and there you can see the damage on the side of the Leon Koffler car. Methinks that probably that car is definitely not going to be in the race now, because we can see Leon Koffler walking away from the car particularly despondent, as you can imagine. Not been a great weekend for Leon Koffler, who didn't finish the first race and certainly isn't going to finish the second. So we remain behind the safety car then, and I'm convinced that the safety car will come in at the end of this lap, because there is no reason for it to stay out. The lights are still on currently, but I think the lights will go out and the safety car will come in, and we will go back to racing, and we will have completed 2 of the, or 3 of the 16 laps by the time the safety car does come in. So the order then on screen: Ten Voorde, Van Lagen, Jackson Evans, then is Henrik Skoog, Luca Rettenbacher and Igor Valilko. Ahead of Gustav Malja, Bessler, then it's Ammermuller, P9, Oertel and Wolf, with Dylan Pereira rounding out the top 12. The rest of the order, as you can see. The best of the gentlemen drivers is, I think it's Matthias Jeserich. Stefan Rakoff is P2, with Skapansky P3. Best of the rookies then is at car number 15, running in P8, which is Berke Bessler, who finished, of course, P3 following the disqualifications yesterday. Still no word to say that the safety car is coming in, but I feel sure it must. Although it is too late for the safety car to come in now, because the cars are rounding the final turn, so we're going to have another lap behind the safety car. Apologies for that, but marshalling and recovery teams doing their work as hard as they possibly can, as quick as they possibly can. Watching the replay of the start once again, and that was where Jaap van Lagen got past Jackson Evans, going through turn number 1. So back with the live pictures again as they exit turn number 1 now behind the safety car. So we have 4 championships, of course, and that's the reason why we're still recovering the Alex Arkin-Acker car. We saw it mowing the lawn, didn't we, around the Parabolica. And that's the car that's got to be recovered, and now I'm fairly confident that the safety car will be coming in at the end of this lap. Also in is the number 10 car of Matthias Jeserich. Damage to the front of the car, you can see the number 10 car, so that has taken Matthias Jeserich then into the pit lane, and that looks like that's going to be a race retirement as well, sadly. So the front splitter and corner there with damage there. Now, of course, that's where the radiators are in these Porsche Carrera Cup cars. So Matthias Jeserich is out of the car and will not be leading that amateur classification anymore. That will go to Stefan Rakoff, I would suggest now, who of course was victorious yesterday in the amateur class. So safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. And you can see now, Jaap van Lagen, as he had to do yesterday, he's got to try and anticipate when Larry Ten Voorde is going to give a foot full of throttle. And Larry Ten Voorde does that now, pushes the loud pedal through the floor of the car, tries to build up as much margin as he can between himself and Jaap van Lagen as they round the final turn now, and the race gets going proper, of course. Absolutely no overtaking before you've passed the safety car line. And we are back to racing as we start lap 4 of 16. Already 7 tenths ahead is Larry Ten Voorde. Then it's Jaap van Lagen, Jackson Evans, Henrik Skoog, Luca Rettenbacher, Igor Valilko, ahead of Gustav Malja. So the top 7 Where's Mikael Ammermuller in all of this? A P9. So keep your eyes on Mikael Ammermuller, who'll be trying to fight his way back up the order once again. You know what they say about safety cars, and here comes Julian Andlauer trying to get past Wagner now. Wagner was involved in some skirmishes yesterday. Around the parabolica they go. What can Julian Andlauer do? Goes to the outside. He will now try and go underneath the car ahead of him. Does so, puts himself on the inside. Job done. Good overtake there from Julian Andlauer. Mikael Ammermuller is really pushing Berke Bessler as well. Mikael Ammermuller subsequently has not been able to do that quite yet, but it's a question of when, not if, isn't it? As Carlos Rivas making a move as well as they go through that turn. Carlos Rivas holds on to... but has such a huge lock-up. He ends up losing 2, if not 3 places from that move. No mistakes at the front of the pack, though. Larry ten Voorde got it all completely under control. Jackson Evans is coming under real pressure, though, from Henrik Skoog. Bit of a fight going on for that P3 place. There's Julian Andlauer. He's just overtaken, as you've seen, and he goes through. Jean-Baptiste Seminar remains at the back of the pack currently. And also there is Carlos Rivas. But this is our race leader, Larry ten Voorde, then. The margin is only 8 tenths between himself and Jaap van Lagen. They're beginning to stretch their legs, but it's a 3-way fight for P3 now between Jackson Evans, Henrik Skoog and Luca Rettenbacher. That's where we need to focus our attention, because Henrik Skoog is tracking everything that Jackson Evans is doing. Igor Valilko is under some pressure from Gustav Malja. And Lucas Oertel there in the number 17 car, Julian Andlauer, Nicholas Scholl, and there the number 88 car of Respar for Forge Racing. So in replay, this was Carlos Rivas then, put himself on the inside, then carried so much speed, locked it up. And that's the start of the lock-up, and he ended up losing 3 places. Gains 1, loses 3. How do you do that? By locking those front wheels, the car running wide, and all in his attempt to get past the Andreas Skapansky car. And this is Jean-Baptiste Simonauer, who was running right at the back of the pack, and obviously problems there for the BWT Lechner racing car of Jean-Baptiste Simonar. He's another race retirement. We're on lap 5 of 16, and Mikael Ammermuller, having got past the car of Gustav Malja, is now tracking the Igor Valilko car. Mikael Ammermuller is on something of a mission here, and is one very much to watch, because if he can dispose of the car ahead of him, which is driven by Igor Valilko, the overdrive by Huber racing driver, then he can start to harry those that are in podium places potentially. And that's what Mikael Ammermuller needs to do to get his charge back on track once again, following a torrid time of it yesterday. So ten Voorde P1, Van Lagen, Evans, Skoog, Rettenbacher. Then it's Valilko, but behind Valilko in P7 now is Mikael Ammermuller, having got past Malja and Bessler in the space of just 1 lap. Sandro Kaibach runs really wide there. So all these cars are very, very equal in terms of performance. But Mikael Ammermuller, with so much experience in the Porsche Carrera Cup and also in the Super Cup, he knows these cars inside out. I would think you'd struggle to find anyone that has a better knowledge, as Henrik Skoog tries to put himself to the outside of Jackson Evans. And now comes to the inside. Now, if Henrik Skoog can stay alongside Jackson Evans, but he's not able to. Jackson has closed the door. Is that Mikael Ammermuller that's gone off to the back? Or was it Julian Andlauer? It is Ammermuller. Ammermuller is out. So Ammermuller, who was really charging through the field, you can see there's damage to the car. We'll get a replay, I'm sure, of what happened there, but Ammermuller is out of the race. So a disaster for Mikael Ammermuller. Well, he'll put this Hockenheim weekend to bed and think never again. It was a disaster for Mikael Ammermuller this weekend. So here, the 3-way fight for P3 that's continuing with Jackson Evans for the moment able to hold off Henrik Skoog and Luca Rettenbacher. There is Henrik Skoog then in the number 20 car. Another one of the overdrive racing by Huber cars. Really pushing Jackson Evans. What happened to Mikael Ammermuller? So ten Voorde with a second's margin over Jaap van Lagen for now. Then it's Evans. Berke Bessler is looking lively here, isn't he? As he's trying to track Gustav Malja and try and convert P8 to P7. Hasn't been able to do it thus far. Right, let's take a look here. This is Mikael Ammermuller then. Well, he goes to turn in, and the gap that he wants to turn into is full of the Gustav Malja car. And you can see that it caused damage to Mikael Ammermuller. So Gustav Malja came from a way back, but to be fair, I'm glad I'm not a race steward, but regrettably, Mikael Ammermuller, the bespectacled Mikael Ammermuller, will have had enough of this weekend. He's out of the race. So, Larry Tenvoorde leading from Jaap van Lagen. Jackson Evans, and wow, Luca Rettenbacher gets past Henrik Skoog. Didn't quite see the overtake live, but Luca Rettenbacher certainly meant that, so he is ahead of Henrik Skoog now. BWT Lechner Honours being left with the number 2 car at the moment of Julian Andlauer. Tony Wolff there in the number 14 machine, currently running in P10. So there is the number 14 car of Tony Wolff, who has Dylan Pereira for company. So they round the final turn. Berke Bessler then, the number 15 car for Car Collection Motorsport. Tenvoorde leads from Van Lagen, Evans, Rettenbacher, Skoog, Valilko. So Rettenbacher fancies his chances of a podium here. The only thing preventing that at the moment is the Jackson Evans car, which is running in P3. So this is how Rettenbacher then sold Skoog something of a dummy, and then Skoog has no alternative but to yield and allow Rettenbacher through. This was a huge lockup. Is that Tony Wolff? No, it is the car of Wagner. So there is Larry Tenvoorde. Jaap van Lagen is maintaining the chase here. He's just taken a 10th out of Larry Tenvoorde. But a 10th is not enough as we reach half distance in this Carrera Cup race. Tony Wolff looks like he's just managed to get past another car. Just caught the back end of that image on our shot there. The all-pink car there is Julian Andlauer. It's not Mikael Ammermuller. He's out. Larry Tenvoorde, P1. Van Lagen, P3. And around is the number 94 car of Jannes Fischer. But he manages to get it going from there. Jannes Fischer, of course, who had a crash in quali and was not able to take part in race number 1. Well, again, it's the hairpin, I think, that... oh, yes. Just almost an innocuous touch, but it's enough to unsettle the back end of the car. That touch coming from Georgi Donchev, the Huber Racing driver. And Jannes Fischer lucky not to be collected by anybody else at that point. So as the Carrera Cup car bounces its way round here, good presence of mind to get it back into first gear and pointing in the right direction again, avoiding any carnage. So, seesaw action. As that number 7 car of Donchev has gone no further. Now, where is that car positioned on the track? And depending upon where that car is positioned on the track, we'll decide whether we need to have a safety car once again. So, it's around the final turn. So there you can see, obviously there is a problem for the Donchev car. Oh no, he's parked it well out of the way, thankfully. And therefore will not cause a problem, but he's another retiree from the race. And Christoph Huber in the pit box there. Jannes Fischer then, who had a turnaround. It looks like it's going to be a race retirement for Jannes Fischer as well, who's had a weekend to forget. Oh dear. The damage there means that the wheel can't be retrieved very easily, and this is a lesson of how to remove a wheel part 1. Deft use of a hammer might be needed there, I fear. Right, this three-way fight for P4 is quite exciting. Luca Rettenbacher has not made the moves that I thought he would in terms of getting on terms with Jackson Evans. In fact, I would say that Skoog and Valilko, if anything, are getting a little bit closer to Luca Rettenbacher now, having got past Henrik Skoog a couple of laps ago. Ten Voorde is stretching his legs as well. He's got 1.3 seconds over Jaap van Lagen. And we have just 6 laps remaining of this Carrera Cup Race 2. From here, of course, we head off to Most in the Czech Republic. Then it's Norrisring, Zandvoort, Nürburgring, Hockenheim and Sachsenring. Good season for the Porsche Carrera Cup and making 2 visits on the DTM package. Julian Andlauer then, and trying to haul in the Gustav Malja car. Gustav Malja, another one that's changed teams this year, has gone with Forge Racing. Was, of course, with the Project One team. And the best of the AM drivers is Stefan Raykopf, who is currently running in the P17 position overall, but is the best of the amateur drivers. There are 4 separate classifications in the Porsche Carrera Cup. There's the championship overall, then there is the AM Drivers Championship, Teams Championship, and of course the Rookies Championship as well. The best rookie is Jackson Evans, who is P3 in the race. So Stefan Raykopf then doing a very good job there in the number 33 car. Finished the race overall P13 yesterday, but of course took the honours of the amateur drivers and is looking very dominant in that AM classification at the moment. Igor Valilko, P6. Right behind him is Henrik Skoog. So Valilko put himself ahead of Henrik Skoog. The order then, Ten Voorde, Van Lagen, Evans, Rettenbacher, Valilko, Skoog, Malja, Andlauer, Bessler and Dylan Pereira into the top 10. So all of a sudden now, Luca Rettenbacher and Igor Valilko are really just pulling away from Henrik Skoog. Skoog hasn't got the pace that these two have, but of course the more that they fight, that will allow Henrik Skoog back into it. Luca Rettenbacher to the inside. Valilko runs very wide. He's able to slot in behind, and therefore Henrik Skoog was not able to take advantage of that wide running. Jackson Evans in P3 out on his own, some 3 seconds down rather on Jaap van Lagen in P2. Larry Ten Voorde continuing to do a great job out front. 1.5 second margin he's got. So Luca Rettenbacher, and now can you see how Henrik Skoog has come back into this battle here? This is a 3-way fight going on for P4. And we're not far away from Julian Andlauer being involved in this mix as well. So Luca Rettenbacher for the moment tries to make that Carrera Cup car as wide as possible and deny the opportunity for Igor Valilko and Henrik Skoog to come through. But you rather get the impression now he's having to defend much harder than he is focused on driving ahead. So rearview mirror is full of the car of Igor Valilko. And I promised you that Julian Andlauer was going to get involved in this mix. Well, allow me 1 or 2 more corners and he's going to be in there as going very, very wide there. Rettenbacher almost opened the door. Now, surely Valilko will get a better run here. And Rettenbacher, well, you can see he's metaphorically sticking his elbows out there to try and defend this position. Look at this, the 3 are almost welded together. As they go into the hairpin, this could be a huge parts bill, or it could be a brilliant overtake. As it transpires, it's none of them. How disappointing. I really thought it was all coming there. So Luca Rettenbacher, he saved that really. Made a mistake through turn number 3 and 4. And that just allowed everyone else to get much closer. And in the event, it was a bit of a damp squib through the hairpin. 4 laps remaining. And I said, did I not, just a few moments ago, stand by for Andlauer to get involved in this? And here he comes now. So Henrik Skoog, instead of focusing on attacking, is having to think about defending. So whilst the others are all escaping up the road, all of a sudden it's become a 5 or 6 way fight, or maybe even 7 for this P4 position. Well, credit here is due, in my opinion, to Luca Rettenbacher, who is not being fazed by this huge train of cars that's behind him. As we all head up into turn number 1 now. So once again, Igor Valilko tries to sell Luca Rettenbacher a bit of a dummy here to try and go underneath him, and he's done it! Surely he's done it, yes he has! He sold him the perfect dummy! Luca Rettenbacher should have seen that coming, but he didn't. And now, all of a sudden, Henrik Skoog fancies his chances as well. So Luca Rettenbacher had done such a great job in defence. He's losing 2 places here. Stand by, Julian Andlauer in the all-pink BWT Lechner racing car. He will try and come through as well. So Rettenbacher and Skoog here are going to be in a drag race down to the flat turn 7. Rettenbacher's going to lose out here, I'm sure, because the inside becomes the outside for the next turn. Oh, they are so close, and that opens up the door for Julian Andlauer. 3 abreast. So Andlauer here has taken great advantage here as one goes wide. And that was the car of Gustav Malja, and Berke Bessler was trying to come into this as well. We knew it was going to end up like this with so many cars. God, you wouldn't want to be at the front of that pack trying to defend it. My goodness me. And the big beneficiary, in my opinion, is Julian Andlauer there. He very cleverly took advantage of everything that was going on. And look, has found himself ahead of Luca Rettenbacher. Wow, what brilliant racing. And I have to say, credit to all the drivers, because clean, tidy, no panel rubbing, no nerfing. I really thought at one moment through that hairpin we were going to end up with a skip full of spare Porsche Carrera Cup car parts, but that wasn't the case. And credit to the drivers for that. Fantastic stuff. Right, that was where the dummy was sold, and Igor Valilko said, "Ta very much." Then, of course, Luca Rettenbacher gets a little love tap from Henrik Skoog. That plays into the hands of Julian Andlauer because he's got more momentum. Oh, that was really great to watch. So, we continue for 2 more laps. Luca Rettenbacher trying hard to fight here against Henrik Skoog, and he does stay ahead of Henrik Skoog. Julian Andlauer and Igor Valilko, the big 2 beneficiaries there. And as I say, I think the best of those, really, you've got to give credit to Julian Andlauer, who was just so aware of everything that was going on. Berke Bessler and Dylan Pereira. Berke Bessler ahead of Dylan Pereira and Gustav Malja. You always get good racing with the Carrera Cup. And we're on to lap 15 of 16 for the lead car now, Larry ten Voorde, who's lost a couple of tenths to Jaap van Lagen. Here comes Berke Bessler then on Henrik Skoog around the inside here. He squeezes him. He's onto the grass. Berke Bessler has put himself ahead of Henrik Skoog. Well, that was close. Good driving from Henrik Skoog to be able to control it while he was across the grass as well. Dylan Pereira wants to buy into it also, as does Gustav Malja and Tony Wolff, who's in P11 at the moment. We are on the last lap of, well, a hugely exciting Carrera Cup Deutschland race where all of the action has been going on for P4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, rather than at the front, because Larry ten Voorde and Jaap van Lagen, there they are, P1 and P2. With Jackson Evans out in his own race, really lonely fella in P3. So Jaap van Lagen for Forge Racing has tried to take everything he can to Larry ten Voorde, and he's got the remainder of this lap and no more within which to do it. Larry ten Voorde then on track to make it 2 out of 2. What a weekend he will have had, but Jaap van Lagen throwing everything out of the car to try and get on terms. As Larry ten Voorde rounds the Sachs turn, heads towards the 13-14 sequence into the final 2 turns. Larry ten Voorde then, as he heads towards the timing line. Can he make it 2 out of 2, barring disaster? It's double bubble for Larry ten Voorde. He wins 2 races. Jaap van Lagen, P2. It'll be some time before we see Jackson Evans. There he is now. He breaks the beam to take P3. And in P4, it's Valilko ahead of Julian Andlauer. Then a whole gaggle of cars, including Luca Rettenbacher, P6. Berke Bessler, P7. Dylan Pereira, P8. Henrik Skoog, P9. And P10 goes the way of Tony Wolff. What a race. Still the cars crossing. Stefan Raykopf will be the best of the AMs. Whew. Larry ten Voorde. What a great job he's done once again. Looked completely unfazed. Not much that Jaap van Lagen could do to try and take that to Larry ten Voorde in the end. And Jackson Evans, as I say, he was kind of out on his own. In replay, this was Bessler then. Henrik Skoog tried to get back to the tarmac there, as you can see, and ended up having to take the curbs, paint, grass, you name it. Well, he was squeezed, there's no question about that. Dylan Pereira almost able to take advantage, but not quite. So good to see those replays then. So much going on in the course of that race. And this man, Larry ten Voorde, once again, the winner. So Larry ten Voorde then having a perfect start to his season. Looking very much championship material, it has to be said. Of course, he's had the rookie championship in the Carrera Cup. That was a couple of years ago. Started his race in the Porsche Sports Cup. And Larry ten Voorde actually sat alongside me in the comms booth last year. Actually a jolly good racing driver and not a bad talker as well. So we'll bring the car into the pit lane now, and Christoph Huber once again will be very, very pleased with his charges. So this was the checkered flag then that awaited Larry ten Voorde to make it 2 out of 2 for this weekend. And the delight on the pit wall. One Mr. Christoph Huber. And Jaap van Lagen for Forge Racing. Forge Racing doing a good job. Of course, they'll be hoping that the car is deemed to regulations following the Parc Fermé, because they disqualified yesterday, as was Jackson Evans, who's pulled his car in for P3. And Larry ten Voorde then climbs atop the car. Jaap van Lagen and Christoph Huber positively lumping him by way of congratulations. So Christoph Huber and Larry ten Voorde then embrace team principal and driver. And Jaap van Lagen there. Jaap van Lagen, of course, spends much of his life as a driver coach, and he's a great guy, as is Larry ten Voorde. Jackson Evans, of course, coming from the Porsche Carrera Cup Australia, and making something of a debut in the Carrera Cup. Hans Burns Camps there, you can just see to the right-hand side of the picture, of course, responsible for the Team Project One JBR amalgamation. And he'll be pretty pleased with what Jackson has delivered over the course of this weekend. Expecting Thomas Volkmar to get down there and get a quick word with our race winner in due course. we take a look at the pictures now. So there you can see once again, it's almost a fight between Christoph Huber and the dance from Jaap van Lagen. Competition between the two of them. It's called the P factor, Porsche factor. Brilliant. So up next then, of course, the podium ceremony to come. Looking forward to that. So the guys all behind the podium in the podium preparation area. Of course, there are two podiums, one for the championship overall, or for the race overall rather, and one for the amateur classification as well. And at any moment now, they will be called out onto the podium. And there is Larry ten Voorde on the top step once again. And Jaap van Lagen and Jackson Evans. Anthem time. So the anthem plays out for one Mr. L for Larry ten Voorde. And here comes the trophy presentations then. Wonderful trophies being presented. Alexander Polish then, who we saw down there on the grid at the head, the start of the race, presents a really rather lovely trophy to Larry ten Voorde. Then it is the turn of Bastian Schramm then to make the trophy presentation to Superman, Jaap van Lagen. And offering congratulations to Christoph Huber as well. Jackson Evans from Huri Isaac receives his trophy. So we just await Mr. Christoph Huber to receive his, to add to the burgeoning Huber Racing trophy cabinet. And once again, he, of course, congratulates and makes due credit to the team that put together the race-winning combo. So they pose for the photos before the bubbly is burst open. I seem to recall yesterday Van Lagen did it better than ten Voorde, personally. I really rather think Christoph Huber's being ambushed here. Deservedly so. Mr. Christoph Huber gets more than a little champagne. But there we have it. Two Porsche Carrera Cup races done and dusted to get the season underway. And what a season. Based on what we've seen today, what a season it is going to be. Never fails to disappoint, the Porsche Carrera Cup. Jaap van Lagen there with Christoph Huber. And there, of course, Christoph's driver, Larry ten Voorde. There we have it then. Races 1, races 2, done, dusted. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you for the next round. Bye-bye for now.
eben noch die Kollegen das Interview mit dem Larry vorne. Er hat also das gleiche Kunststück geschafft wie Michael Hammermüller vor einem Jahr. Der hat in Oschersleben einen Doppelerfolg gefeiert in 2018. Allerdings waren das auch die einzigen Siege, die er dann 2018 gefeiert hat. Da wünschen wir Larry ein bisschen mehr Glück. Hammermüller wird mit 7 Punkten dieses Wochenende nach Hause fahren. Larry mit 50 Punkten.